In this tutorial series, we're going to be making a ninja spike avoider. Just a simple 10 level game of a guy collecting coins and avoiding spikes. And we just try to collect all the coins in each level. Make it to the end of the level. So this is what we'll be making. It's sprite sheet based, using TAD's basic game objects. Makes it easy to make tile based games. This is the sprite sheet we'll be using. I use GIMP to just piece all this together. These are freely available resources. This sprite sheet and the code snips, everything will be available on the GitHub, so you can pretty much just follow along. I'll be using Visual Studio Code, and I've got it hooked up to browser sync. So I've got my folder set up, and then I go to View, Command Palette, and then browser sync, server mode in browser. And then that starts a local host for you. It's normally 3000, and it'll be in the same folder as your files. Okay, so when you start that browser sync, it automatically the place it serves from will be the same place as these files that you have in here. The three files we need for the Tabagios library are the controllerpad.css, controllerpad.js, and Tabagios min. This file also has all of the documentation in it as one file to give us code completion in VS Code. Okay, and we have an index file and a game.js, and this is our sprite sheet that we're going to use. We have code snips to help us get started, and the code snips file is on the GitHub. It has this basic HTML setup and also a basic JavaScript setup. Okay, so this is the basic setup. We include the three scripts, the two scripts and the one style. In this case, we're also going to have a map. Okay. And we're also going to call game.js a module. And the basic HTML element outline for any game, we have a container div that contains a root div and a controller div. And the container div is normally absolute positioned. It's whatever width and height at 0, 0. And the root is the same width and height as the container. And our controller will go, the touch controller, if needed, will appear inside of this div. Okay, so that's the basic HTML outline. We can save that. Okay, in here we'll say this is the very first line. Here's our maps file. It's a class, level maps. We export level maps. a map looks like. It's a 2D array of arrays that denote the Y and X index of each tile to place there. And then some, like this one, for example, represents where a coin will be. These are general level maps there. We'll go over that more in a bit. Okay, so we import level maps and then our code snippet. Copy paste the JavaScript code snippet. And it's got the whole thing, pretty much an extension of the GameSkeleton class set up for us. Okay, this one we'll call it Ninja Game. Okay, and one var we know we're going to have is the maps. So maps equals new level maps. Okay, so GameSkeleton takes a GameSpecs object param during construction. It's got a game width, game height, camera height, the camera follow offset X, which is the position where the camera follows the player around. We've set that to -half the camera width. Okay, and the camera, in this case, the camera height and the game height are the same, so the Y position of the camera doesn't have to move, so we put that as 0. The tile width, the tile height. Okay, sprite sheet image, in this case it's called first ninja.png. Alright, that will load that for us as the sprite sheet, and we'll be able to reference it with this ._image in our game. Okay, and the container div ID, that's the ID over here, container root controller. Okay, we declare what those are here. Root start locations, that's the X and Y location on the screen for the start button. The game scale, 0 for no scale, we could put 1 to have full screen. Use screen organizer, true, that's default true anyway. The width of the start button, the height of the start button, the height of the controller, the touch controller when it appears. The default is 144. And this controller will resize anyway. Initial lives, initial player position, the X and Y location of the player at the beginning of the game. Okay, and then there's different methods we can declare that will happen at different times during the game. On select level happens when the level select screen is used. The game loop, that's the main loop, so we declare that it's going to be this .loop, which is down here. All right, this snippet has all of these ready to be defined in here. The background color, the camera type, defaults 1, which means it's going to move. Full reset specifics, additional scene. We haven't used every one. We won't use every one of these, but a lot of them we get used, and I'll talk more about each one and when it happens as we define them. Okay, so now to start everything, we would just declare a new Ninja game. So if we save this, let's see what happens when we run it. Okay, we just get it transitions to the title screen. It has a HUD up here. Okay. Let's say we don't want that HUD. In the initial setup method, we could say this.remove HUD. And ultimately, we're going to use a custom HUD in this example. So we say remove HUD. There, the HUD's gone. Okay, and if we press start, nothing's going to happen because we haven't defined anything. So initial setup happens before the title screen is shown. Initial setup is the first thing that happens. And so far we've just said remove HUD. Now let's go ahead and set up a more involved title screen. What we'll do in this case is just use the sprite sheet. So we have right here in this section of the sprite sheet, we have the title screen drawn. To just basically show that, we would say this.title.floor copy pixels from this._image, which is a reference to our sprite sheet. Okay, and this is where in the sprite sheet to copy from, width and height to copy. So at X location of 544 and 7Y of 768 in this sprite sheet, that's where this is. And we're copying that onto the title screen. The title is a canvas object container. It has a .floor, which is a canvas object, and a .div, which is an HTML div. So another way we could have populated the title is by putting other elements into the div of it, or we can just copy to the floor. Okay, and the start button, what we'll do is we'll say this.start button. Okay, so that takes away the start word. Okay, and here we also have to put where to copy to. Okay, so now we have the title screen will appear. HUD's removed for now. Okay, and then let's draw to the background layer. We'll do that by saying this.background layer. Now the background layer is a canvas object. Same kind of a thing. We're using copy pixels to copy from a section of the sprite sheet. In this case, the background is located at 0 and 1472, and it's the complete width and height of the game. Also put it at the 0, 0 position in the background. Okay. So now, if we save and run this, one other thing we'll need to do is make a generic player. Okay, this.player is a property of the GameSkeleton class that's ready to be defined, that we have to define. For now, we'll just we'll give an X and Y, width, a height, a map, and that's all we have to give it. Okay, that's just so that the player is defined. Okay, so now if we save it and run it, we'll get a title screen, and when we press start, we should see the background. Okay, there's our title screen. Starts in the same place, so it's there to be pressed, and we get a background.